Hi, I'm Alan Crawford, Vice President of Luxury Brands for Foley Family Wines.
I'm Alicia Sylvester. I'm the winemaker here at Merus Wines, located in St. Helena.
And welcome to In the Library, where we get the opportunity to taste and talk about some great vintages from the Merus Winery.
Yeah. Great.
So, I know our oldest vintage is 1998, but I think this building is a little older than that.
Exactly. So Merus is located in the old ghost winery of the Rossini Ranch family. And this Rossini Ranch, that was a Swiss-Italian family that migrated here, and they built the winery structure in 1891. So we now have our winery, the stone walls are the original stone walls, and we have refurbished the wooden barn that surrounds our cellar, and it's just a historical landmark of Napa Valley. In the cellar, we have small fermentation vats because Merus is a small production, high-end winery. So we need those small fermentation vessels so I can have little ferments going everywhere, and that gives my blending a lot more complexity, and I can work a lot more in the winemaking side.
Well, with winemaking in mind, why don't we jump into the wines? We have the luxury to taste a vertical of Merus, 2016, 15, 14, and the 2013 vintage.
What do you want to start with,
Why don't we
Alan?
start with the 2013?
Let's do it.
So this wine is primarily Cabernet
Yes.
from a vineyard actually down south, even though we're in the north of Napa Valley.
Yeah, so Coombsville definitely has a cooler climate in growing season as well. The fog comes in, that marine layer at night, so nice cool nights for our grapes to hang out. And then the marine layer hangs out in the morning for a really long time. So that means
A little bit more acidity.
Exactly. So then that means once that marine layer comes out, our grapes are getting ripened, but they have a longer hang time because of all that marine layer.
Yeah.
So we're really able to get dark fruits and good ripe fruit.
Yes. So the color is just terrific.
Yeah.
Really bright red.
We are not shy of extraction here at Merus.
But it's really, I know we use French oak barrels and all new barrels.
We use 100% new French oak barrels. We have about 5 consistent cooperages that we use, and then of course I do experimentation and see if anything else fits into our program.
And you know, even though this is a few years older, 2013 vintage, the oak is really integrated to that fruit. There's a softness of fruit, but you have this little bit of toast and smoke that really comes through in this wine.
Definitely. That's where we're on the winemaking side trying to find that balance of oak to fruit balance, and where I'm extracting a lot up front so then I can manage it with a healthy oak program.
It's big, rich, lots of black and red fruit,
Oh yeah, it's hanging out.
and that very, very, very long finish.
Yeah, that's very nice. And keep in mind, we just opened it, not even 15 minutes ago. With Merus, it really evolves in the glass. It's a new wine in 30 minutes, and it's a new wine in an hour, especially with our big boys.
And there's almost a little softness to it. And for me, a braised dish like short ribs, where you get a richness from the stock and the simmer with all of those flavors, and I think that texture would be absolutely perfect.
You've got my mouth watering. Let's go to the next wine. So we're gonna go with our 2014. So every year in this lineup, we're just getting a little touch more of Petit Verdot has been introduced into the program.
So right away, there's a little bit more assertive nose, probably because it's a little younger, obviously.
Perfect.
And leaning maybe a little bit more towards fruit.
A little more fruit. This was a cooler year in 2014 than 13. 13 was like creme de la creme. It's definitely a little brighter.
Agreed. And I think maybe because of that little bit of cooler year, the flavors are not as big, but still really integrated, and that is, again, this really long, delicious finish.
Yeah, this for me, with it having a little brighter, is better with food, really good food pairings, and it'll lay down really well.
I absolutely agree, and I think even working in, if you're going to cook, a little bit of dried fruit like cherries with a pork tenderloin.
Definitely.
Really to accent some of that bright fruit.
All right, let's move to our next. We've got the 15 here.
So all of these wines are made in pretty small quantities.
Yes.
You talked a little bit about the fermentation tanks, so they're fairly small.
We're very small. We have two types of fermentation vessels, stainless steel tanks and concrete tanks. The concrete tanks help with sustainability in terms of they are great conductors of heat or cool, and then also you can bring out a lot more deep fruit notes there in fermentation and some minerality as well, just adding complexity. And then our typical stainless steel, these are only 4-ton fermenters versus, normal, a lot of bigger wineries, 20 tons, things like that. These smaller 4-ton, it just gives me a lot more to work with, and we can take a block and then make that now 2 different lots, 3 different lots, extend that.
A little bit more control.
Exactly.
To be able to take little smaller portions and ultimately be able to make the very, very best blend.
Yeah, definitely. And I make the best blend, and then I go back to the best blend, and then I mark the barrels of the best blend, and I take the best barrels of those. It's a continuous cycle of that, so Merus is the best of the best.
So the 15 vintage, I get this nice, almost forest floor, almost even a little tobacco.
Yeah, it's definitely a deep nose.
So there's a core fruit, but there's also all these other little pieces. And again, I think like the 14, maybe a little bit softer, showing a little bit more of that forward fruit.
I'm getting a lot of the spices that are coming out that we can get from our barrels that help kind of just, help us, our palates dance around.
Absolutely agree.
It's very nice.
I mean, I think it's rich, powerful, but a vegetarian dish maybe with a lot of mushrooms, really
definitely.
picking up some of those flavors, a nice complement. But it may be even playing off some of those spices.
Yeah.
With cardamom and cumin, and some of those
Definitely.
flavors would be just an absolute perfect.
It would be fabulous. Let's move on to our 16.
So this is our current release from Merus that's out in the market.
We are so excited about it. It's just showing so beautifully, and our customers are just really loving it.
Well, you can see right away in the glass, it almost has a brooding color. And wow, whew. This might be the most intense nose, the
Very
most intense flavor of all the wines that we've had.
Definitely, and it's the youngest, so we have to keep that in mind when we're doing a tasting like this. Most people gravitate towards the older wine. Well, that's because it's more ready. It's ready. So this is also a great time that we can adjust our palates and saying, well, this, see its ageability and see what way it's going to age, so it can help with our purchasing decisions.
Absolutely, and with that in mind, the fruit is basically coming from one source.
Yes.
Yet the wines, I get a very common thread with all of these wines, yet they're very individual. They're unique in each of the vintages.
Yeah, and with luxury winemaking, we all the wines are going to be vintage specific, but at Merus, we're making the best wine that we can, and the best wine in the portfolio of our parent company. This is the best, and if it doesn't, we are comparing it with our own standards and with industry standards. Constantly doing competitive tastings, and constantly, I'm exercising my palate constantly to make sure that this delivers the mouthfeel that you want and the finish, and that it'll perform in your cellar really nicely.
I think this, just right in the nose, just leads you along this course.
Yes.
It's a path that is very long, because there's so many incredible flavors here.
And again, coming back to this in 30 minutes, it will be another wine of just it just opens up. These are big, big wines, and this is a little house, So we need it to have some time to open up and really just envelop our nose.
And I think both ways. I think for the 2013, it's been in the bottle for several years.
Yeah.
It's been cramped up.
It needs to stretch
pour it out in the
Totally.
decanter and let the wine open up. Yet at the same time, here it is, this big, brooding, massive wine. Put it in a decanter, let all the flavors release themselves. I think you're right. 30 minutes or so might even be a very different wine.
Yeah, it's fun. That's what makes wine tasting fun, is going back and revisiting and really seeing how this art can develop in the glass.
And in fact, if there was any left, I think coming back to this tomorrow.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. Sometimes the next day, the wines are better. I don't know if Merus if people are able to restrain themselves.
With 2016, I think they'd be hard pressed because again, there's a glycerol, there's a texture to the wine. There's almost a thickness to it that coats your mouth.
Yeah, that's my job, to get that.
So fantastic vertical, 2013, 2014, 2015, and finally the 2016. Now, I know these wines are fairly limited.
Yes.
There's some key partners, retailers and restaurateurs around the country that carry Merus.
Very few.
But they're also available through Foley Food and Wine Society.
FoleyFoodandWineSociety.com, and you can also purchase it at our tasting room, appointments only.
Well, Alicia, thank you very much. What a pleasure.
Thanks, Alan.
Fantastic tasting. And till I see you again in the library, I'm Alan Crawford.
And I'm Alicia Sylvester. Cheers.